I'm Farrar Duro, and you're listening to the PCOS Revolution podcast. Oh, hello, everyone, and welcome to the PCOS Revolution podcast. I have with me today a very special guest. Her name has been mentioned several times on our podcast, and I think that you're really going to enjoy hearing her point of view. Her name is Angela Grassi, and she is an internationally known nutrition and health expert on PCOS. And she also has been named one of the top 10 incredible RDs. So she's a registered dietitian. And not only that, she actually has 2 books out. And you might be familiar with one of them. It's called the PCOS Nutrition Center Cookbook. It's got 100 recipes for women with PCOS. And also her PCOS workbook is out, and it's very helpful to actually kind of integrate the physical and emotional aspects of PCOS and help to work through that. And I also see that you have another book, so if you could tell us about that too, the Dietitian's Guide.
Sure. Hi. Great to be here. Thank you for having me. Yes, we do have a couple of books for women with PCOS, and then my first book is actually called PCOS, the Dietitian's Guide. And I wrote that to educate dietitians and other healthcare professionals more about recognizing PCOS and different ways to treat it from a nutrition standpoint. But it is pretty popular among women with PCOS too. You know, women with PCOS, you might find this, they're very interested in research. You know, they're hungry for information. They're not getting the information that they need, so they do a lot of research. So a lot of women do find that book helpful as well.
Oh, that's great. And I look forward to reading that too. I have a whole library of PCOS books here, so it would be really good. So can you just tell us a little bit about how you got involved with working with PCOS and what your journey has been?
Sure. So my background, I am a registered dietitian nutritionist, and I have a master's degree in nutrition. And when I came out of graduate school, I already started working with patients that had eating disorders. So women who were struggling with anorexia and bulimia and binge eating disorder. And that's actually when I saw my first patient ever with PCOS. And I'll never forget her because she was just so cheerful, and her doctor recommended she do an Atkins-type diet. And here she was struggling with binge eating and purging it. And I'm like, what is this PCOS? I don't remember learning that much of it in graduate school or even undergrad. And so I started to do a lot of research to figure out what's, going on underneath it. And there is a big connection with PCOS and eating disorders. And then fast forward 2 years later, I was actually diagnosed with PCOS myself.
Okay.
And I didn't recognize it right away because I didn't have any of the big warning signs. Like I didn't have the irregular periods and excess hair growth and things like that. And so it was not easy to diagnose. In fact, I saw 3 different doctors before getting a diagnosis of PCOS, which is pretty common among the PCOS community, unfortunately.
Yes. And so I feel like the key piece of PCOS is really hinging on nutrition so much. And so did you kind of have little bells going off in your head like, well, I have been experiencing these symptoms and now I know what they are,
Right, exactly. Like I gained about 40 pounds in as little as 3 months. And this is despite a healthy diet and regular exercise. In fact, I was doing pretty intense exercise at the time, and I would ask doctors to test me for it, and they just weren't testing the right hormones and weren't looking at the whole picture. So, yeah, I knew something wasn't right. Lab tests kept coming back. No, you don't have diabetes. Your thyroid's fine. But there was just this gut instinct that something wasn't right and that I did have it.
And then where did you go from there once you knew?
Yeah, once I was diagnosed, I wanted to start educating dietitians and other healthcare providers. And then there was such a need to educate women and to help women understand PCOS from the nutrition standpoint and lifestyle standpoint. And so I created the PCOS Nutrition Center. And we provide a lot of nutrition information on our blog. And we do have supplements as well as the books on our website. And webinars as well to help educate women how to take control over this with nutrition, because nutrition is one of the primary treatment approaches for PCOS, making changes to your diet and other aspects of your lifestyle as well.
Right. Even the CDC, they actually put out a guideline recently that said, that really diet and lifestyle should be the first line of treatment for PCOS, not medication. So I think that message is starting to get out there, but it just takes repeating a few times, I think, to really
absolutely
let people know. Yeah. And a lot of people think it's just straight, let's just start with metformin, which can be very helpful, but before they try anything diet related, do you find that as well, or what's your experience?
Oh, yeah, or the birth control pill,
right.
Especially in, young women. It's like, give them a chance to make some changes in their lifestyle. And, there's a lot of supplements that have been shown to be very effective in treating some of the symptoms associated with PCOS. So, let's not just jump to medication right away, because it's just kind of a Band-Aid in some aspects.
All right, and I still haven't seen anybody suffering from a birth control pill deficiency yet. I don't know about you.
Right. Exactly.
So, and I mean, especially young girls, it really amazes me. Like, I think I saw a patient the other day who was 14 who was put on birth control. And I said, well, what's the game plan? Like, when do you plan on getting off? And there really wasn't one. I mean, I guess it's whenever they think about getting pregnant, and that's when we see patients. We're like, oh, I wish I would have done something sooner,
I know, and so many people aren't educated about the health risks associated with the pill. Like, birth control pills, oral contraceptives can increase cholesterol and triglycerides. They can actually cause more inflammation and more insulin resistance depending on the type of oral contraceptive.
Yeah, and I was just researching this fact because of a recent webinar I have coming up, and it actually, if you have PCOS, your risk of blood clotting is doubled, which and I think also your insulin resistance can get worse with birth control.
Right, so I don't think the pill is the best option for women with PCOS. I mean, some women do need it. There are some benefits. It does decrease the testosterone, and it can help decrease the risk of endometrial cancer, but the other metabolic risks are pretty significant.
Right. And I think 20 years or 30 years of being on birth control is a bit much. So what is something that we don't know about nutrition for women with PCOS that we probably should?
I think what's so underestimated is the role of antioxidants in helping women with PCOS. Antioxidants are powerful. They fight cancer, but they also help to keep our cells healthy. And many antioxidants have been shown to be low in women with PCOS. For instance, magnesium and zinc, omega-3s are great antioxidants. So these all work to fight inflammation as well. And women with PCOS, as you know, have low-grade inflammation, and that could stem from being exposed to high insulin levels and high androgen levels for long term. But these antioxidants are found in many fruits and vegetables. And so I find that a lot of women are scared to eat fruits in particular because they think it's sugar, and it gets digested the same way as sugar, but it's not. Many fruits have a lot of fiber along with these antioxidants, the very antioxidants that have been shown to help reduce insulin resistance and other aspects of metabolic conditions.
I wonder about the vitamin D levels that we see that are constantly low with women, and if that's something that you see a lot with PCOS, and why that's happening.
Yeah, we definitely see that women with PCOS have lower levels of vitamin D, and there is association with vitamin D and insulin resistance. And we definitely see a benefit of taking vitamin D and helping to improve egg quality and fertility. So women who are trying to get pregnant, absolutely, they should be taking even higher levels than the recommended daily amount, which is only 600 international units a day.
Right. I wonder if we use a multivitamin that has 2,000 IUs a day, and it does have some CoQ10 and some antioxidants. So I wonder if you have any ranges that you could specify for someone who is trying to conceive, or actually who's pregnant with PCOS.
Yeah, absolutely. So every woman is different, but I definitely recommend 2,000 IUs a day for most women with PCOS. And then I recommend getting their levels tested. If they're really low, they might need like a much higher dose of that. Some doctors can prescribe, that really high dose of vitamin D where they take 50,000 international units a week. And that's a once-a-day pill. But for women who are pregnant, they definitely need somewhere between 2,000 and 4,000 international units. And we do have research that shows by the time a woman gives birth, her vitamin D levels are depleted.
Interesting. Yeah. And breastfeeding too. I did read something. It was a vitamin D council. They're saying 4,000 to 4,000 to 5,000 IUs. Every day. So if you don't take it, it actually drops pretty precipitously without, taking it daily. So
right. And the baby's going to take some of that vitamin D because breast milk isn't a source of vitamin D. So that's why not only do women need it for themselves, but for their babies.
Okay, and I think that it maybe the prenatal vitamins we need to look at. Why are the amounts so low? I just wonder. I'm just constantly looking at it, going, "What? It's like pathetically low." For
I know,
D.
and so many women are like, "Well, I'm taking my prenatal, so I have everything covered."
Yeah, no, even omega-3 and the very small amounts that they give sometimes. Yeah, so definitely there's a need for research with that, I think.
Yeah.
And as far as if somebody is on metformin, let's say, and they're having nausea or they're really just wanting to look for an alternative, what would you recommend for that?
Yeah, so metformin is probably the most popular medication used to treat PCOS, even though it's still not indicated to treat it. But a lot of women just can't tolerate it because it does cause a lot of digestive issues and diarrhea. So there are some more natural treatments. I find inositol very effective in women with PCOS, and we have studies, a good amount of studies actually, that have compared inositol to metformin with similar benefits, if not a little bit better for inositol, for not just improving menstrual cycles, but for improving cholesterol levels too.
Exactly, yeah. And and also for something that you can easily add it to your smoothie, that sort of thing. It's in powder form, and a lot of times, right?
Yeah, you can get it in pill or powder form, but that's what's nice about the powders. You can just put it in your smoothie, or women with PCOS take so many supplements and pills.
Yes,
that powder's kind of nice.
I actually thought about doing a video of my supplement cabinet, and I thought, maybe that's going to scare people.
I know, but women do it, and they know because they feel better.
Right. I think I kind of think that if you do have your routine together, it doesn't feel like so much, especially if you can kind of get some of that into shakes. And the inositol I find has a very neutral flavor, or even a little sweet. It doesn't really have any type of bad taste. So
yeah, are you talking about the Avasitol powder?
Yes.
Yes. And it's really well tolerated. It doesn't have the side effects that metformin does. And it can regulate cycles for the majority of women, and it can bring down, like I said, cholesterol. It has been shown to improve egg quality and fertility. So, I consider it actually one of the first-line treatments for PCOS is taking inositol.
And also mood swings too. I think it has an effect on mood as well. I think.
Yeah. And it's been shown. Well, actually, I don't think I've seen any studies to show it, but I see it in my patients that they report that the cravings are a lot less.
I experienced that myself, and I think also I actually had a couple who came to us, and the man had depleted his sperm count with using testosterone supplements, and so we actually used inositol to help his sperm count, and it actually was really good.
Cool! That was a good study.
Yeah, so definitely, I think men can benefit. It's a B vitamin derivative, correct? I think they could
it's a
benefit.
pseudovitamin of the B vitamin family. Yeah, I take it myself too. I've seen huge improvements, especially with my A1C levels.
Yeah, it's great. And so I think that if we could prescribe something like a basic regimen that every woman with PCOS would benefit from, what would be your preferences?
For which kind of supplements I would recommend?
Right.
Well, definitely some of the ones we talked about, like Avasitol, which is an inositol supplement, I would recommend for most women with PCOS, even those that are past menopause, because it still helps with the metabolic issues related to PCOS. And the vitamin D is certainly very important. The omega-3s are essential to our diets. Our body doesn't make omega-3 fats, so we need them from our diets or from supplements. And then if, depending if a woman needs a little bit more aggressive support, there are some other supplements like NAC, which stands for N-acetylcysteine, or even berberine to help bring down insulin levels and other metabolic risks.
Right. And definitely it's something that I believe that one of my favorite herbs is chaste tree or vitex for women with PCOS, especially when they have anovulatory cycles or they're not, especially even in teenagers. I find it's just super helpful, along with what you mentioned with the omegas and vitamin D. And we try to minimize things like, well, we're not going to overwhelm. I don't want to overwhelm anybody, but these are things that you need. So they're
right. And you don't have to be on like some of them forever. Like chaste tree, might not be a long term, but it's just helpful to get things going and to regulate those hormones. Yeah.
Right. And I think there are certain optimal doses, too, that people do well on. I mean, you can actually do Vitex the wrong way, where you actually take too little and it prevents you from ovulating. So that's not good. But and vitamin D, like you mentioned, that would be good to go ahead and have that check periodically, too. I think that we see a lot of times someone is told, well, you're okay, and the range is like 20 on a lab test, which is still really low, I think. I mean, and so we usually say, well, if you could actually get your ranges up even twice or 3 times that, it's actually still good, so. Yeah,
and keep them up.
Yes, yeah, that's the thing. So sometimes they haven't had it rechecked in like a year. So I wonder, we definitely need to be on top of it. But definitely, even that alone, sometimes we see that helps regulate the cycle. With vitamin D, I see. So that's really important. So, I mean, besides the supplement regimen, what else would we say would be very important for someone who maybe is just found out they had PCOS or they're trying to conceive?
What kind of supplements should they take?
Well, like other than supplements, maybe some lifestyle recommendations or things that you've seen that have been really helpful.
Sure. So I think we definitely have to look at exercise, because exercise does play a role in improving equality. And we have to look at sleep habits, getting enough sleep. There is some evidence showing that women who don't get enough sleep have impact their fertility levels. And certainly nutrition. So getting in those antioxidants, getting in a balanced plate of whole grains, and lots of omega-3 fats is all really important to help improve egg quality and ovulation.
And I guess after, you see so many diets come and go with the fad diets and sort of things. So now there's ketogenic diet, which I think is pretty strict. I mean, I don't know if that's right for everybody. It may be appropriate for some people, but there's low carb, there's paleo, there's so many options. What would you say if somebody is trying to come to you and say, well, I want to get something that's going to work for my body? Because I know we're all different, but what would you say if someone maybe perhaps has at least 20 to 40 pounds to lose and that sort of thing versus someone that's just trying to regulate their cycle?
Yeah, so I really think it's important for a woman with PCOS to sit down with a registered dietitian, nutritionist, to really figure out what, eating plan is going to be best for them. There are these quick fixes like keto. You can lose a lot of weight right away, but the problem is that as soon as you stop eating that way, the weight comes back. And what we're finding is this yo-yo dieting, the losing weight, regaining it, and losing weight and regaining it actually has a significant impact on health. And there's a lot of obstacles for women with PCOS to try and, lose this weight. And so I don't recommend strict weight loss diets at all. I think it's important for women with PCOS to really listen to their bodies, but be educated about how insulin plays such an important role in the symptoms that they experience and how it impacts their weight and their health, and just making some changes. Doesn't even have to be that strict, but some modifications to their diets and to start exercising more or differently. All of these can play a significant role in their weight and their fertility.
Yeah, and I think I've experienced myself and with a lot of patients that the going gluten-free actually has been very helpful. And I don't know I actually haven't seen the research about the percentage of women with PCOS who have a gluten intolerance or sensitivity, but I feel like it's definitely a lot as far as what I see with my practice. So do you find that helpful?
Yeah, I think, again, it's really important to take an individualized approach. I haven't seen any data at all to show any connection. Doesn't mean it's not there, but a connection with gluten and PCOS. I do see that some women, they feel a lot better when they cut gluten out, but I also see women who do eat gluten who have cut it out, and they haven't seen much of a difference at all as far as either energy levels or weight or just the way that they feel. So I think it's really important just to, again, take an individualized approach to see what works for them.
I agree. We do have gluten sensitivity tests that we run with food sensitivity testing that's available, and that's very helpful too. And I think to just to explore that sometimes.
Exactly, because sometimes they're eating foods they don't even know that's causing inflammation, and that's going to make PCOS worse and the symptoms worse.
Mm-hmm. So the inflammation is just a constant battle.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I think that, with our, I don't know, I was reading something the other day where our population has, I think, half of the United States is either pre-diabetic or diabetic. So that to me was astounding. I'm like, that's crazy, and that shouldn't be that way. I just
right.
So I feel like we have an opportunity if we have PCOS to really think about this and say it is kind of a pre-diabetic state, but we can actually control this. We can actually catch this before it gets to that point, and a lot of us have family members with diabetes, so we've seen what that does. So this is a great opportunity, and I think it's a good time to really get your diet under control, and it will help you for the rest of your life.
Exactly. It's going to, PCOS, there is a high risk of developing type 2 diabetes in particular. I saw one study that it reviewed like an average of 35 studies, and they found that PCOS was associated with a 2.5 times increased prevalence of that impaired glucose tolerance, the pre-diabetes range, and a 4-time increased prevalence of type 2 diabetes. So, just hearing those statistics, it's not a given that a woman with PCOS is going to develop this. It just makes it more important for them to be proactive with their health now so that they prevent it. And these are preventable.
All right. And I think back to like seeing some of our patients who get pregnant with PCOS, and they do have an increased risk of gestational diabetes. And I feel like there would be, we definitely need some guidance there to just say, well, be prepared. This might happen, but these are some things you can do in the meantime. And perhaps like getting the vitamin D levels under control. I think I read, with an inositol, is that indicated if you're pregnant or not?
We do have research. Yeah, it has been shown to reduce actually the gestational diabetes risk, and has been shown to be safe in pregnancy so far. Yeah.
And are the gynecologists telling the patients about this with diabetes or with PCOS? Do you find, or how do
I don't think so. I think it really depends on the doctor, but overall, I don't find that a lot of doctors are recommending it in pregnancy. And it's kind of like metformin too. Some recommend metformin in pregnancy.
Yes.
I think it depends on the doctor and their knowledge with these supplements.
Okay, so if somebody was pregnant and they wanted to take an inositol, then, they would have to, I guess, speak with their doctor and find out the dosage that's right for them, or speak to a nutritionist or a dietitian.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And, I think if you could tell us some story about, what's been really, I guess, like life-changing for you as far as in your own life when you started incorporating the foods that you talk about in your book and certain lifestyle changes.
Yeah, when I was first diagnosed with PCOS, not knowing, of course, that I had it, my A1C levels were around 5.4. And ideally, we do want levels under at least 5.7 to not be considered pre-diabetes. So I wasn't pre-diabetes range, but still that was an indicator my glucose level was higher and my triglycerides were high. And by adopting these lifestyle changes, by including a lot of antioxidant-rich foods and having more of a balance with the carbs, I've been able to really reduce my A1C levels. And I think Ovasitol, taking that inositol supplement, has made a huge difference. I was like my own guinea pig. So when I knew that my A1C was 5.4, I started taking the Avasitol supplement.
Mm-hmm.
And 3 months later, I checked my A1C. It was 5.1.
Oh.
And then 3 months after that, it went down to 4.9.
That's without dietary changes, or did you?
Not much, because I already
mm-hmm.
had adopted these changes, and
mm-hmm.
it kept my A1C at 5.4. I even took metformin, and never got below 5.4.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that I got down to 4.9, I've been able to keep it there. I've been really happy about that.
And do you have this information on your website, or how can someone find out more information on that?
Yeah, I blogged about it. I have a blog post called I Took Avasitol and This Is What Happened.
Ah, very cool. Very nice.
Yeah, and I encourage women, so many women with PCOS are just so focused on that number on the scale,
mm-hmm.
but focus on your labs. Health is more important than a number on the scale.
Yes, yeah.
And you can get all your levels into ideal ranges with dietary changes and lifestyle changes.
Definitely. And I think that it takes some effort, but again, it's something that, like, once you have a plan and you know it works for you, then that's it. You can follow it for, and yeah, it's true. I mean, with metformin, it's also, it's helpful, but I think that, a lot of people I see, they don't take it long term. They tend to just kind of go on and off of it. So, it's
Exactly.
Well, this has been so helpful, and we'll definitely post the links to your website and your books, Angela, and I really appreciate you taking this time with us. And if you could just leave us with a parting piece of guidance, you can share with us something that you hope that we could take with us throughout the day, then what would that be?
Sure. So, unfortunately, PCOS doesn't go away, but you can, through lifestyle changes, even small changes can add up, and they can make a significant impact in your health. So while PCOS doesn't go away, you can take control over it, so it no longer takes control over you.
Great. And that's what we're here for. We're here for support. So definitely, everybody listening, don't hesitate to reach out on Angela and also on our Facebook page, and let us know any questions you have. So thank you again for your time, and hope everybody has a wonderful day. Thanks a lot, guys. And that's the end of this episode of the PCOS Revolution podcast. If you've enjoyed the show and want to help me spread the word about how women with PCOS and hormonal imbalances can lead happier, more healthier lives, please head over to iTunes and leave us a review. They really do make a difference. If you'd like to have a question answered on the show or would like to recommend a guest, please go to floridacompletewellness.com/podcast. If you're on social media, you can follow me at facebook.com/floridacompletewellness and twitter.com/floridacomplete, where I post a lot of interesting research, webinars, and articles on our blog about really getting to the root of hormonal imbalances like PCOS. So it's a great way to stay in touch with the latest developments. Thanks so much for listening, and see you soon.